The research vessel. Peaceful Dawn drifted silently through the void between star systems, its hull scarred from countless micrometeorite impacts during the long journey. Captain Zelath of the Catherian Republic pressed her scaled hands against the viewport, watching distant stars that seemed no closer than when they had started this doomed expedition 3 cycles ago. "Captain, our power reserves are down to 8%, reported Navigation Officer Timmel, his voice barely above a whisper. The bridge crew had grown gaunt over the past weeks, their usually vibrant blue skin now pale and sickly. Food synthesizers had failed first, then life support began its steady decline toward complete failure. Zelath turned from the viewport, her large eyes reflecting the dim emergency lighting that had become their constant companion. The Peaceful Dawn had been humanity's first contact with their species, a peaceful meeting that had established trade routes and cultural exchange. Now that same ship limped through space, its crew slowly dying as systems failed one by one. "How long before complete life support failure?" she asked, though she dreaded the answer. Engineering Chief Koldar lifted his head from his station, exhaustion evident in every movement. 6 hours, maybe 7 if we shut down non-essential systems. He paused, looking around at his crewmates. "Captain, we need to send the distress beacon." The distress beacon. They had debated this for days as their situation grew more desperate. Their emergency transponder would broadcast on all known frequencies, but they were so far from civilized space that only the most advanced ships with the longest range sensors might detect it. The Catherian Republic's rescue ships couldn't reach them in time, even if they received the signal immediately. "Sir," Communications Officer Yethra spoke up from her station, "I've been monitoring local space communications. There are some strange signals coming from the system we passed 2 days ago. Very powerful transmissions, but not from any known civilization." Zelath moved to the communication station, studying the readouts with growing interest. The signals were indeed powerful, far stronger than anything the Catherian Republic could produce. The mathematical pattern suggested an advanced technological civilization, possibly more advanced than any they had encountered. "Can you determine their origin point?" the captain asked. "Yes, but Captain..." Yethra hesitated, her fingers dancing over the controls. "The power signatures are unlike anything in our databases. These beings, whoever they are, have technology that makes our ships look primitive." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of failing life support systems. Zelath stared at the data streaming across the screens, weighing their options. They could send their standard distress signal on Republic frequencies and hope for a miracle, or they could gamble everything on these unknown aliens. "What do we know about their language patterns?" she asked. "I've isolated several transmission bursts. The mathematical constants suggest intelligence, and there are repetitive patterns that might be linguistic markers. I think I can modify our distress beacon to match their communication protocols." Time was running out. The life support systems groaned with each cycle, and several crew members had already collapsed from oxygen deprivation. Zelath made her decision with the weight of 12 lives pressing on her shoulders. "Do it. Modify the beacon to their frequencies and transmission patterns. Include our location, ship specifications, and crew complement." Yethra worked frantically at her station, her skilled hands flying over controls as she adapted their emergency systems. "Captain, I'm including universal mathematical sequences and our basic biological requirements. If they're truly advanced, they should be able to understand our situation." "How long to prepare the transmission?" 10 minutes to configure, then we broadcast continuously until..." She didn't finish the sentence. But everyone understood. As Yethra worked, the crew gathered on the bridge, supporting those too weak to stand. They watched their communications officer pour everything she had learned about alien contact protocols into one desperate message. The transmission would contain their coordinates, biological needs, technological specifications, and a plea for help broadcast in mathematical languages that any advanced civilization should understand. "Ready, Captain," Yethra announced. Zelath looked around at her crew, scientists and explorers who had volunteered for a mission of discovery, not knowing it would become a fight for survival. "Send the signal." The communication array powered up, drawing precious energy from their failing systems. The modified distress beacon launched into space, carrying their desperate plea toward the unknown civilization. The message repeated every 30 seconds. each transmission potentially their last as power levels continued to drop. "Signal is transmitting on their frequencies, Captain," Jethro reported. "If they're monitoring communications in this region, they should detect us within the hour." Now came the hardest part: waiting. The crew settled in for what might be their final hours, sharing what little water remained and trying to conserve oxygen. Some prayed to Catherian deities, others simply held hands with crewmates, finding comfort in shared presence as darkness closed in around them. "Captain," Timmel said softly, "whatever happens, this was a good mission. We mapped 7 new star systems and discovered 3 potentially habitable worlds. The Republic will benefit from our work." Seleth nodded, watching the stars through the viewport. Their distress signal continued its steady broadcast, reaching out across the void toward beings they had never met, carrying the hopes and fears of 12 dying Catherians. In the distance, those same mysterious signals continued their powerful transmissions, evidence of a civilization with technology beyond their comprehension. Whether those beings would prove to be saviors or something else entirely remained to be seen. But for now, the Peaceful Dawn and her crew could only wait and hope that their desperate gamble would bring rescue before the darkness claimed them all. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the UES Retribution, Earth's most advanced deep space vessel, when the priority alert chimed across all stations. The massive ship had been conducting routine patrol operations in the Outer Rim territories, keeping watch for pirate activity and surveying potential colony sites for the ever-expanding human sphere of influence. "Admiral, we're receiving an unknown transmission on multiple frequencies," reported Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez from the communications station. "It's not in any known human language, but the mathematical components suggest intelligence." Chen moved to the central holographic display where the intercepted transmission appeared as flowing data streams. The bridge crew worked efficiently around her, their movements precise and practiced. The Retribution was humanity's pride, a kilometer-long vessel bristling with weapon systems and equipped with the most advanced sensor arrays Earth's military engineers could design. "Analysis? Commander Park?" Chen addressed her science officer. Commander Park's fingers flew across her workstation as she processed the incoming data. "The signal originates from coordinates approximately 18 hours away at maximum burn. The mathematical sequences are elegant, definitely from an advanced civilization. They're broadcasting biological requirements and what appears to be ship specifications." "Biological requirements?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "Oxygen, nitrogen atmosphere, carbon-based life forms, water dependency. The transmission includes electromagnetic signatures consistent with failing life support systems." Park looked up from her station. "Admiral, this is a distress call." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. First contact with an alien species and their introduction was a desperate plea for help. Chen studied the data flowing across the displays, noting the sophisticated mathematical proofs embedded in the transmission. These beings were clearly intelligent and technologically advanced, yet they were dying in the void. "Commander Morrison, what's our current mission status?" Chen asked her first officer. "We completed the survey of the Kepler 442 system yesterday. No immediate tactical concerns in this sector, and our next scheduled patrol isn't for 6 days. Morrison stepped closer to the Admiral. "Ma'am, if we respond to this, we're potentially making first contact without Earth Command authorization." Chen nodded grimly. The protocols were clear. First contact situations required approval from Earth Command and the Colonial Council. But those same protocols had been written assuming they would have time for proper preparation, not a rapidly dying ship broadcasting its final moments into space. Timeframe analysis, Commander Park. Based on the declining power signatures in their transmission, I estimate they have less than 5 hours before complete system failure. Park's expression was grave. "Admiral, if we're going to help them, we need to leave now." The weight of command pressed heavily on Chen's shoulders. She could follow protocol, relay the information to Earth Command, and wait for official authorization while an unknown species died in space. Or she could act on her own authority, potentially saving lives but risking her career and possibly compromising humanity's position in a first contact scenario. Tactical assessment, Commander Blake? The tactical officer studied his displays. Unknown ship configuration, but the power signatures suggest technology roughly equivalent to our own, possibly slightly more advanced. No weapon signatures detected, consistent with their claim of being a research vessel. Chen made her decision. All stations prepare for emergency jump to the coordinates. Navigation, plot the fastest course. Engineering, I want maximum burn capability. Admiral, Morrison said quietly. Are you sure about this? Commander, we're humans. We don't let people die in space if we can help it, regardless of what species they are. Chen's voice carried the conviction that had made her one of Earth's most respected military leaders. If Earth Command has a problem with that, they can court-martial me after we save these people. The bridge erupted into controlled activity as the crew prepared for emergency jump procedures. The Retribution's massive engines began their charging sequence, and the ship's AI systems calculated optimal trajectories for their rescue mission. Communications. Can you decode enough of their language to respond? Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez worked frantically at his station. I'm using their mathematical frameworks to build a basic response protocol. It won't be sophisticated, but I should be able to convey that we received their signal and are en route. Do it. Let them know help is coming. The response transmission launched moments later, a simple mathematical sequence that indicated acknowledgement and approach. It was humanity's first deliberate communication with an alien species, sent not through careful diplomatic channels but in a desperate race against time. Jump sequence initiated, reported the navigation officer. 18 hours to target at maximum burn. Chen studied the alien distress signal one more time, noting the elegant mathematical proofs and sophisticated engineering data they had included. These beings were clearly advanced, probably more so than humanity in some areas. The fact that they were dying despite their technology suggested they had encountered something beyond their control. All departments, I want detailed preparation for first contact protocols. Medical, be ready for unknown biological requirements. Engineering, prepare emergency life support systems that can be adapted for their atmospheric needs. Security, full alert but non-threatening posture. As the Retribution entered its jump sequence, Chen couldn't help but reflect on the irony. Humanity had spent decades preparing for first contact, imagining grand diplomatic meetings and careful cultural exchanges. Instead, their first encounter with alien intelligence would be an emergency rescue operation, conducted by a military vessel in the depths of space. The ship lurched as it entered hyperspace, racing toward an unknown vessel carrying unknown beings who had reached out in desperation to a species they had never met. Behind them, Earth continued its normal routines, unaware that one of their ships was about to change the course of human history. 17 hours, 43 minutes to target, announced the navigation officer. Chen settled into her command chair, knowing that the next day would either mark humanity's greatest triumph or its most tragic failure. Either way, they were committed now. The Retribution and her crew were racing against time to save lives and make first contact with a dying alien species. Captain Zelath's consciousness flickered as the Peaceful Dawn's life support systems entered their final death spiral. Oxygen levels had dropped to critical minimums, and most of her crew had lapsed into unconsciousness hours ago. The emergency lighting had failed completely, leaving only the faint glow of backup displays to illuminate the dying ship. She forced herself to stay awake, monitoring the communications station where their distress signal continued its automatic broadcast. Power levels read less than 2%, and each transmission cycle brought them closer to complete silence. Soon, the beacon would fail, and their last hope of rescue would vanish into the cosmic void. The response had come 6 hours ago, a simple mathematical acknowledgement that someone had heard their plea. But as time stretched on with no sign of rescue, Zelath began to wonder if she had imagined it in her oxygen-starved delirium. Perhaps her dying mind had created the hope of salvation to ease her final moments. A tremor ran through the ship's hull, so faint she might have missed it if she hadn't been pressed against the bulkhead. Then another, stronger this time. Zelath struggled to her feet, forcing her failing body toward the sensor station where Engineering Chief Koldar lay unconscious over his controls. The proximity sensors, running on the last dregs of backup power, showed something impossible. A massive object was approaching, something so large it defied comprehension. The readings had to be wrong. No ship could be that enormous and still maintain structural integrity. Another tremor shook the Peaceful Dawn, and through the viewport, Zelath saw lights cutting through the darkness. Not the gentle glow of stellar bodies, but artificial illumination arranged in geometric patterns. As her eyes adjusted, the approaching vessel began to resolve into something that challenged every assumption she had about spacecraft design. The ship stretched across her entire field of vision, a kilometer-long cathedral of metal and technology that dwarfed her research vessel like a mountain, overshadowing a pebble. Its hull gleamed with the distinctive blue-white radiance of military-grade armor plating, and sensor arrays bristled from every surface like the spines of some technological predator. Weapon emplacements lined the massive vessel's flanks, railgun batteries, missile tubes, and energy weapons of designs she had never seen before. This wasn't a rescue ship or a peaceful exploration vessel. This was a warship, built for destruction on a scale that made her species' most powerful military vessels look like toys. Terror and hope warred in Zelath's failing mind. These unknown aliens had built a ship capable of destroying entire fleets, yet they had come in response to her distress call. Either they were saviors with incredible military capabilities, or her desperate transmission had attracted the attention of something far more dangerous than slow death in space. The communication console sparked to life as external transmitters made contact with their systems. Through the static and interference, mathematical sequences began to flow, complex but understandable patterns that conveyed basic concepts: location, status, preparation for contact. Zelath forced herself to the communications station, her hands trembling as she activated the response protocols Yethra had prepared. Before she too had succumbed to oxygen deprivation, she managed to transmit their coordinates within the ship, crew numbers, and basic biological requirements before exhaustion overwhelmed her. The massive alien vessel maneuvered with impossible grace for something its size, positioning itself alongside the peaceful dawn, with precision that spoke of advanced technology and skilled operators. External lights illuminated sections of the research ship's hull, and Zelath could see smaller craft deploying from the warship's hangar bays. Through the viewport, she watched as armored figures in advanced environmental suits moved across her ship's hull. Their movements were efficient and purposeful, cutting through damaged hull plating with tools that made quick work of the reinforced metal. Whatever these beings were, they possessed technology that made Catherian engineering look primitive. The ship shuddered as the aliens breached the outer hull, and Zelath heard the distinctive hiss of atmosphere being introduced to the dying vessel. Her failing sensors detected fresh oxygen flooding the corridors, and the temperature began to rise from the near-freezing levels that had gripped the ship as thermal systems failed. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors, growing closer to the bridge. Zelath tried to stand, wanting to greet their rescuers with dignity, but her weakened body refused to cooperate. She managed to prop herself against the captain's chair as the bridge doors cycled open with a mechanical whir. The figure that entered wore advanced combat armor painted in military gray, with a reflective faceplate that concealed any features. Technology beyond Catherian understanding was integrated into every surface of the suit, and the being moved with the controlled precision of a trained soldier. In one armored hand, it carried a device that scanned the bridge with rapid sweeps of blue light. Other armored figures followed, spreading out across the bridge with tactical efficiency. They moved to each unconscious crew member, deploying medical equipment that began immediate atmospheric treatment and biological monitoring. Their actions were swift but careful, showing concern for the fragile aliens they had come to rescue. The first figure approached Zelath, its scanner focusing on her biological readings. Through her failing consciousness, she heard sounds that might have been speech-filtered. Through the suit's communication systems, rhythmic, vocalizations that suggested complex language, patterns. One of the rescuers deployed a portable atmospheric unit that immediately began flooding the bridge with breathable gases. Zelath felt strength returning to her limbs as oxygen levels rose to sustainable levels. Around the bridge, her crew members began to stir as the emergency medical equipment worked to revive them. The lead figure removed its helmet, revealing features that shocked Zelath into full awareness. The being was clearly alien, but not in the ways she had expected. Bilateral symmetry, forward-facing eyes that spoke of predator ancestry, and skin tones that suggested a species adapted to intense stellar radiation. But what struck her most was the expression of concern and determination on the alien's face. This was Admiral Sarah Chen. Though Zelath had no way of knowing the name or rank of the human who had just saved her ship and crew, all she knew was that when her people had sent their desperate plea into the void, It had been answered by beings who commanded ships of incredible power, yet chose to use that strength to preserve life rather than destroy it. As her crew slowly regained consciousness around her, Zeleth realized that first contact between their species would not take place in diplomatic chambers or research facilities. Instead, it would happen here, on a dying ship in the depths of space where one species' desperation had met another's compassion. 3 days after the rescue, Captain Zeleth stood in the Retribution's observation deck alongside Admiral Chen, watching as repair crews worked to restore the Peaceful Dawn to operational status. The human engineering teams had thrown themselves into the project with enthusiasm that both impressed and concerned the Catherian captain. "Your people work with remarkable efficiency," Zeleth observed, watching as human technicians in environmental suits swarmed over her ship's hull. "But they seem to approach repairs as if they were preparing for battle." Chen smiled, understanding the confusion. "Humans tend to over-engineer solutions. We call it redundancy. If something can fail, we make sure there are backups for the backups." Redundancy born from necessity, Zeleth mused. "Another adaptation from your death world." The conversation was interrupted by Commander Park approaching with a data tablet and an expression of barely contained excitement. "Admiral, Captain Zeleth, we've completed the analysis of the Catherian database with their permission. The results are significant." Chen gestured for her to continue. Over the past days, Park had been working with Catherian Navigation Officer Timmel to create comprehensive star charts and technological comparisons between their civilizations. The Catherian Republic represents a coalition of 17 species spread across 43 star systems, Park began, all peaceful, all evolved under what we would consider ideal conditions. "But Admiral, there's something else." She activated the holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional map of local galactic space. Catherian territories appeared in blue, with Earth's location marked in red. The scale was sobering. Humanity occupied a single star system on the edge of a vast, galactic community they had never known existed. "The Catherians have been monitoring our region of space for over 50 years, Park continued. "They detected our radio transmissions, analyzed our atmospheric composition from long-range sensors, and classified Earth as a quarantine world." "Quarantine?" Chen asked sharply. Zeleth's scales shifted to apologetic patterns. "Admiral, we must explain our classification system. The Republic maintains detailed records of potentially habitable worlds throughout the galaxy. When we first detected Earth, the environmental conditions seemed so hostile that we assumed any life there would be similarly dangerous." "Define dangerous," Chen said, her voice carefully controlled. Timmel, who had been working with the human science teams, spoke up from his position at a nearby console. "Your world's history shows regular mass extinction events, violent tectonic activity, extreme weather systems, and evolutionary pressure that produced apex predators of unprecedented capability. We classified it as a death world populated by Deathworlders." Park activated another display showing Earth's biological history. "From their perspective, Admiral, humanity's evolutionary path is terrifying. We survived ice ages that would have wiped out most galactic species. Our predator-prey relationships produced creatures that the Republic considers nightmarish." "Such as?" Chen asked. "Tigers," Zeleth said quietly. "When we detected your biological databases, we found records of terrestrial predators that could hunt and kill creatures many times their size. Bears that could run at speeds exceeding Catherian vehicle capabilities. Insects that could consume biological matter in swarms large enough to be detected from orbit." Chen realized that from the perspective of species evolved on gentler worlds, Earth's ecosystem would indeed seem like a horror show. Sharks, crocodiles, wolves, venomous snakes. The predators that humans had learned to coexist with would be seen as monsters by beings who had never faced such evolutionary pressure. "But the most concerning discovery," Park continued, "was evidence of humanity's rapid technological advancement. In less than 200 years, humans progressed from basic steam power to spaceflight, capable of reaching other star systems." "That's concerning?" Chen asked. "It's unprecedented," Timmel explained. "Most Republic species required between 500 and 1,000 years to achieve interstellar capability. Human technological advancement follows patterns we associate with species under constant existential threat." Zeleth moved closer to the holographic display, highlighting Earth's position relative to Republic space. Admiral, when we first detected evidence of human space exploration, the Republic Council debated whether to make contact or implement containment protocols. The word containment hung heavy in the air. Chen felt a chill as she realized what the alien captain was implying. You considered us a threat. A potential threat, Zeloth corrected. Deathworlders with rapid technological advancement and evidence of sophisticated military capability. The Republic has never encountered anything like humanity. Commander Park activated a new display showing comparative military capabilities. Admiral, I've been analyzing Republic fleet specifications with Captain Zeloth's permission. Their most advanced warships carry weapons comparable to our Corvette-class vessels. The Retribution alone could engage their entire regional fleet. The implications were staggering. Humanity had stumbled into a galactic community where they represented an overwhelming military advantage. Yet their first action had been to save lives rather than demand territory or resources. Captain Zeloth, Chen said carefully, what will you report to your Republic Council? The Catherian captain's scales shifted through complex patterns before settling on determined gold. I will report that Deathworlders are indeed dangerous, Admiral, but dangerous in ways we never anticipated, meaning? A species capable of building ships like the Retribution could have imposed their will on us through force. Instead, when our ship was dying, you risked your vessel and crew to save aliens you had never encountered before. Zeloth's large eyes met Chen's directly. You're dangerous because you represent a level of ethical development that makes our previous assumptions about Deathworlders completely wrong. Chen absorbed this information, realizing that humanity's entry into galactic civilization would be complicated by perceptions based on their homeworld's hostile environment. Yet their first contact had demonstrated that environmental pressure could produce not just strength and technology, but also compassion and moral courage. Admiral, Park said quietly, there's one more thing. The Catherians have been in contact with their Republic Council since yesterday. We're receiving requests for formal diplomatic contact from multiple species. Requests or demands? Chen asked. Requests, Zeloth confirmed. The galaxy wants to meet the Deathworlders who choose to save lives rather than take them. Your rescue of the Peaceful Dawn has already become a story spreading throughout Republic space. As Chen looked out at the stars, she realized that humanity's greatest challenge wouldn't be overcoming hostile aliens or technological barriers. It would be living up to the reputation they had accidentally created as the Deathworlders, who chose compassion over conquest. Admiral Chen stood in the Retribution's medical bay, watching as Dr. Martinez and her team worked to stabilize the 12 alien survivors. The Catherians, as they had learned to call themselves through painstaking communication efforts, had required immediate medical attention despite the successful atmospheric rescue. The beings were humanoid in basic structure, but clearly evolved from a different evolutionary path. Their scales shimmered with iridescent patterns that seemed to shift based on emotional state, and their large eyes adapted for lower light conditions suggested a homeworld with dimmer stellar radiation than Earth. They were smaller than humans on average, built for efficiency rather than strength. How are they responding to treatment? Chen asked Dr. Martinez. Better than expected. Their biology is carbon-based with surprising similarities to human physiology. We've been able to adapt our medical protocols with minor modifications. Martinez paused, checking readings on her tablet. The Captain Zeloth has been asking to speak with you. She's recovered enough for basic communication. Chen nodded and moved to the medical unit where Captain Zeloth rested. The Catherian leader had insisted on remaining conscious while her crew recovered, displaying a dedication to command responsibility that Chen recognized and respected. Universal translation algorithms had made basic communication possible, though complex concepts still required careful interpretation. Admiral Chen, Zeloth said, her voice carrying melodic tones that the translation software rendered in precise English. My crew and I owe you our lives. We transmitted blindly into space, not knowing what manner of beings might respond. You're welcome, Captain. Any spacer worth the title would have done the same. Chen pulled up a chair beside the medical unit. We've been analyzing your ship's database with your permission. Your technology is impressive, in some areas more advanced than our own. Zeloth's scales shifted to deeper blues, which the crew had learned indicated curiosity mixed with concern. Yet your vessel dwarfs ours completely. The Retribution is larger than our biggest military ships, and the weapon signatures we detected She paused, searching for appropriate words. Are you a warrior species? The question struck at the heart of what Chen had been grappling with since the rescue. Humanity's first impression on these aliens had been a massive warship, bristling with enough firepower to destroy small moons. How could she explain that humans were not inherently violent, while acknowledging that violence had shaped their evolution and technology? We're explorers and builders, Captain, but our history has required us to become warriors when necessary. Chen chose her words carefully. Earth, our homeworld, taught us that survival often depends on strength, but strength is best used to protect rather than conquer. Your homeworld, Zelath repeated. Her scales shifting to patterns Chen had learned indicated deep thought. Our scientists have analyzed the biological readings from your crew. The bone density, muscle development, cardiovascular efficiency, these suggest evolution under extreme conditions. Dr. Martinez, who had been monitoring the conversation, stepped forward. Captain Zelath has been asking questions about human physiology. I've been sharing some basic information with her permission. What kind of questions? Chen asked. Zelath struggled to sit up straighter, her large eyes focusing intently on Chen. Your people, humans, you evolved on a world that should have killed you. The gravity requirements we detected, the atmospheric pressure, the radiation tolerance built into your biology. Dr. Martinez showed me scans of human skeletal structure. Chen frowned. I'm not sure I understand. Admiral, Dr. Martinez interjected. I've been comparing human and Catherian physiology. From their perspective, Earth is what we might call a death world. The gravity alone is nearly double what their species evolved under. Our atmospheric pressure would be toxic to unprotected Catherians. The implications began to sink in, as Chen realized what the alien captain was suggesting. You're saying that from your species' perspective, humans evolved under conditions you consider unsurvivable? Not just unsurvivable, Zelath said, her voice carrying an emotion the translator rendered as awe mixed with fear. According to your biological scans, humans developed under conditions that would kill most known sapient species within hours. High gravity, intense radiation, volatile weather systems, aggressive native life forms. Chen thought about Earth's history, the ice ages, volcanic periods, mass extinctions, and constant evolutionary pressure that had forged humanity into its current form. What seemed normal to humans might indeed appear nightmarish to species that had evolved under gentler conditions. The Catherian Republic has encountered 17 intelligent species. In our region of the galaxy, Zelath continued, all evolved on worlds with conditions similar to our own. Stable climates, moderate gravity, peaceful ecosystems. When we first detected your homeworld's characteristics in your ship's database, we assumed the readings were incorrect, but they're not, Chen said. Understanding dawning. Your species didn't just survive on a death world, Admiral. You thrived on it. You built a civilization that could construct ships like the Retribution, vessels that could serve as mobile military bases capable of projecting power across star systems. The engineering alone suggests an industrial capacity born from necessity and hardship. Dr. Martinez pulled up comparative data on her tablet. Captain Zelath showed me Catherian military vessels. Their largest ships are about the size of our frigates, and they're considered massive engineering achievements. The Retribution represents a level of military-industrial capability they've never encountered. Chen absorbed this information, realizing that humanity's first contact had revealed them as something unprecedented in known galactic civilization, not just another species exploring the stars, but survivors of conditions so harsh that their very existence challenged other species' understanding of what was possible. Captain, Chen said carefully, does this change how you view our rescue of your ship? Zelath's scales shifted through several color patterns before settling on a warm golden hue. It makes your actions even more remarkable, Admiral. A species with your capability for destruction chose instead to preserve life. You could have ignored our distress call or worse, seen it as an opportunity for conquest. That's not who we are, Chen replied firmly. No, Zelath agreed. But it's who you could be. The fact that Deathworlders with your technological capabilities choose compassion over conquest suggests something profound about human character. As Chen left the medical bay, she realized that first contact had revealed as much about humanity as it had about the Catherians. Through alien eyes, humans appeared as impossibly resilient beings from a hostile world. carrying the strength to destroy civilizations yet choosing to save dying strangers in space. The question now was how the rest of the galaxy would react when they learned that Earth's children had finally reached the stars. Admiral Chen stood in the Retribution's main conference room, facing a holographic assembly that represented the first formal diplomatic contact between humanity and galactic civilization. Representatives from 12 different species appeared as three-dimensional projections, their forms ranging from the familiar blue-scaled Catherians to beings that challenged human understanding of biological possibility. Captain Zelath sat at Chen's right, serving as both translator and cultural advisor, as humanity prepared to introduce itself to a galaxy that had spent decades fearing their potential arrival. The past week had been a whirlwind of preparation, as both sides worked to establish communication protocols and diplomatic frameworks. Honored representatives of the Galactic Republic, Chen began, reading from carefully prepared remarks that had been reviewed by both human and Catherian diplomatic specialists. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Force, speaking on behalf of humanity and our home system. The translator systems worked with remarkable efficiency, converting her words into the various languages represented in the assembly. Chen had learned that the Republic used a sophisticated network of universal translation algorithms developed over centuries of interspecies cooperation. A tall, crystalline being whose form seemed to refract light in impossible patterns spoke first. Through the translation systems, Chen learned this was Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrian Collective, current chair of the Republic Council. Admiral Chen, the Republic extends greetings to humanity and acknowledges the unprecedented circumstances of our first contact. The rescue of the research vessel Peaceful Dawn has created considerable discussion throughout our territories. We're honored by your attention, Chancellor, Chen replied, though I should clarify that our actions were motivated by basic, humanitarian principles rather than any desire to impress galactic civilization. Ripple of what the translation systems identified as surprise passed through the assembly. A being resembling a large, intelligent cephalopod spoke next, its tentacles weaving patterns that seemed to convey emotional undertones. I am Deep Current Flowing, representing the aquatic communes. Your statement suggests that preservation of unknown life is considered a basic principle among your species. This is remarkable for beings evolved under Deathworld conditions. Chen realized that every species in the assembly had preconceptions about humanity based on Earth's environmental conditions. They expected aggression, territorial behavior, and survival-focused thinking. Compassion toward strangers was apparently not associated with Deathworld evolution. Deep Current Flowing raises an important point, Chancellor Vextar continued. The Republic has studied your homeworld's characteristics extensively. The environmental pressures that shaped human evolution should have produced a species focused primarily on survival and resource acquisition. Perhaps, Chen said carefully, those same pressures taught us the value of cooperation and mutual aid. Survival on Earth often required communities working together against environmental threats. Captain Zelath leaned forward slightly, her scales showing supportive patterns. If I may address the Council, my crew and I can testify to human behavior under crisis conditions. When the Admiral learned of our distress, her immediate concern was for the preservation of life, not for political advantage or technological gain. A new voice entered the conversation, belonging to a being whose form appeared as shifting geometric patterns. I am Calculation Matrix of the Synthesis Minds. Our analysis suggests that human technological development patterns indicate significant military-industrial capability. The vessel that rescued Captain Zelath represents engineering sophistication beyond most Republic standards. Here was the heart of galactic concern. Chen had spent hours with her senior staff preparing for this moment. Calculation Matrix, you're correct that human technology emphasizes robust engineering and redundant systems. This stems from our need to operate in hostile environments, not from aggressive intent. Yet your vessel carries weapons capable of destroying entire fleets, Chancellor Vextar observed. The Retribution is designed for long-range patrol and protection duties, Chen acknowledged. Humans learned early that the galaxy can be dangerous, and we prepare accordingly. But our first use of that capability was to save lives, not threaten them. The assembly fell silent as representatives processed this information. Chen could sense that humanity's combination of overwhelming military capability and demonstrated humanitarian behavior was unprecedented in galactic experience. Deep current flowing spoke again, tentacles weaving complex patterns. The Republic faces a philosophical challenge, Admiral Chen. For centuries, we have operated under the assumption that advanced technological capability inevitably leads to aggressive expansion. Your species appears to contradict this principle. Perhaps, said a new voice belonging to a reptilian being with elaborate cranial frills, we should consider that Deathworld evolution produces not aggression, but rather appreciation for life's value. When survival is constantly threatened, perhaps life itself becomes more precious. Chancellor Vextar's crystalline form shifted through several color spectrums before responding. Ambassador Kethavar of the Saurian Dominion raises an intriguing hypothesis. However, we must consider the implications of integrating a species with unprecedented military capability into galactic civilization. Chen felt the weight of the moment. Humanity's future relationship with galactic civilization hung on how they address these concerns. Chancellor, the Republic's caution is understandable and appropriate. We propose a gradual integration process with full transparency regarding human capabilities and intentions. What form would this integration take? Asked Calculation Matrix Captain Zelath spoke up before Chen could respond. If I may suggest, the Republic could benefit from human expertise in hostile environment operations. There are regions of space we cannot explore, due to environmental hazards that might be routine for Deathworlders. The suggestion sparked immediate interest among several representatives. Chen realized that Zelath was offering humanity a role that played to their strengths while addressing galactic needs. Additionally, Chen added, human engineering principles emphasizing redundancy and robust design could contribute to Republic infrastructure projects, particularly in challenging environments. Chancellor Vextar's form brightened noticeably. You propose technological cooperation rather than political integration? We propose partnership, Chen said firmly. Humanity has much to learn from galactic civilization, but we may also have contributions to make. The rescue of the Peaceful Dawn demonstrates that our capabilities can serve humanitarian rather than aggressive purposes. The Assembly engaged in rapid consultation, with translation systems working to convert multiple simultaneous conversations. Finally, Chancellor Vextar spoke for the group. The Republic Council will consider a formal proposal for human integration, beginning with technological cooperation and humanitarian assistance programs. Captain Zelath will serve as liaison during the evaluation period. As the holographic assembly dissolved, Chen felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. Humanity had successfully navigated their first formal diplomatic contact, but the real work of building relationships with galactic civilization was just beginning. The Deathworlders had been invited to join the galaxy not as conquerors, but as partners in preserving life among the stars. 6 months after first contact, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, humanity's first joint construction project with the Galactic Republic. The massive orbital facility orbited a neutron star, whose radiation would have been lethal to most Republic species, but provided an ideal testing ground for human engineering principles applied to galactic technology. Through the reinforced viewport, she watched as human and alien engineering teams worked side by side, their environmental suits allowing cooperation in conditions that would have been impossible for either species alone. The station represented more than technological achievement. It symbolized the successful integration of Deathworld practicality with galactic sophistication. Admiral, the latest reports from the outer sectors, Captain Zelath said, approaching with a data tablet. The Catherian officer had accepted a permanent position as Human Republic liaison, her experience during the rescue making her uniquely qualified to bridge the gap between civilizations. Chen accepted the tablet, scanning through updates from various joint operations. In the 6 months since formal contact, humanity had become the Republic's go-to species for operations in hostile environments. Human crews led expeditions into radioactive nebulae, established research stations near black holes, and conducted rescue operations in regions of space that had been considered inaccessible. The mining operation in the Cygnus sector is ahead of schedule, Chen noted, and the evacuation of the Xerion system went smoothly despite the solar flares. Your people have exceeded every expectation, Zelath replied, her scales showing patterns of genuine admiration. The Republic Council estimates that human involvement has expanded accessible galactic territory by nearly 30%. It was a remarkable achievement, but Chen knew it came with challenges. Humanity's rapid integration into galactic civilization had created both opportunities and tensions. Some Republic species worried about human influence growing too quickly, while others had become almost dependent on human capabilities for dangerous operations. Any updates from Earth Command? Zaleth asked. The Colonial Council approved the establishment of 3 new joint research facilities, and they're fast-tracking the cultural exchange programs. Chen paused, watching a human engineer in powered armor assist a delicate crystalline being with some heavy lifting, though Admiral Harrison still has concerns about our military profile in galactic politics. It was an ongoing debate within human leadership. The revelation that humanity possessed overwhelming military superiority over Republic forces had created diplomatic complications. While no species had openly challenged human involvement, there were undercurrents of fear and respect that complicated relationships. If I may offer a perspective, Zaleth said carefully, the Republic's concern is not about human military capability itself, but about the precedent it sets. For the first time in galactic history, a single species could potentially dominate all others through force. But we haven't, Chen pointed out. No, and that's what makes humanity so remarkable. Zaleth's scales shifted to warm golden patterns. Every Republic simulation suggested that a species with your capabilities would eventually seek dominance. Instead, you've used your strength to enable others to thrive in previously impossible conditions. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the station's command center. Commander Park's voice came through the comm system with barely controlled excitement. Admiral, we're receiving distress signals from the edge of the galaxy. Long-range sensors detect multiple ships in distress near the galactic barrier. The energy signatures don't match any known Republic technology. Chen and Zaleth exchanged glances before hurrying to the command center. The main display showed a 3-dimensional map of local space with pulsing red indicators marking the distress signal's origin point. Analysis, Commander? Chen asked. The signals are coming from beyond mapped Republic territory, in a region we've classified as uninhabitable due to exotic radiation fields, Park reported. But Admiral, the mathematical structures in the transmission suggest intelligence. Another species? Zaleth asked, her voice carrying both excitement and concern. Possibly, Park continued. But here's the concerning part. There are energy signatures consistent with weapons fire in the area. These ships aren't just in distress, they appear to be under attack. Chen studied the tactical display, her mind already calculating response options. The location was beyond the range of any Republic vessel, requiring a minimum 18-hour journey through radiation fields that would kill most galactic species within minutes. Ma'am, Park added quietly, if we're going to respond, it has to be us. No Republic ship could survive the journey, and we're the only human vessel in range. It could be a trap, Zaleth warned. An unknown species testing human responses or something worse. Chen considered the options. 6 months ago, humanity had stumbled into galactic civilization by responding to a distress call. Now they faced another desperate situation, but this time with full knowledge of the risks and implications. Commander Park, how long to prepare the retribution for deep space rescue operations? 4 hours to full readiness, Admiral. Begin preparations. Chen turned to Zaleth. Captain, I know this is beyond your original liaison duties, but would you consider joining the mission? If we encounter another new species, your experience with first contact protocols could be invaluable. Zaleth's scales brightened with determination. Admiral, when the peaceful dawn was dying in space, you didn't hesitate to risk everything to save strangers. How could I do less when you're extending that same compassion to others? As the station's crew prepared for another rescue mission into the unknown, Chen reflected on how much had changed since that first desperate distress call. Humanity had found their place in galactic civilization, not as conquerors or subjects, but as the species willing to venture into dangerous places to preserve life. The galaxy had learned that Deathworlders were indeed dangerous. Dangerous to the assumption that strength inevitably led to oppression, dangerous to the belief that survival instincts precluded compassion, and dangerous to any force that threatened innocent life. As the Retribution prepared to launch into the galactic barrier's lethal radiation, Chen knew they were writing another chapter in humanity's growing reputation. The Deathworlders were going to save someone again, because that's what humans did when people needed help. In the depths of space, new voices called for aid, and humanity would answer, no matter how far they had to travel, or what dangers they had to face. It was, Admiral Chen realized, the most human thing they could do, and perhaps the most important contribution they could make to galactic civilization. The stars awaited, and humanity was ready to prove once again that their greatest strength lay not in their capacity for destruction, but in their unwavering commitment to preserving life among the infinite dark.